Idiot Box, where we discuss the good, the bad, and the wacky in television. I'm Allison Lips. My guest today is Garrett Smith, avid watcher of television and grad student in television studies at Rowan University. Today, we are discussing The Sopranos. Hi,
The
Garrett.
Sopranos. Hello.
Hi. I know you recently binge watched it.
I did, yes. I started in September when I watched the for the third time, the pilot episode
Yeah, I've
in
seen the pilot
Bianculli's
multiple
class.
times.
So yeah, it was
Yes.
my third or fourth time. I was like, you know what? I'll just go for it now. And I watched it from September till about November, and then I got to the last season. I was like, well, I went too quick, and I don't want this to end. So I waited a couple months and then binged the rest in January. So yeah, pretty recently. And it was my first time, so
That's cool.
interesting. Yeah.
For those who don't know, Garrett and I are both students at Rowan University. I have a completely different story with The Sopranos than you do. While I've also seen the pilot multiple times, I have not watched the entire series because
Yeah.
I'm older than you. It came out in 1999, and I was 8 at the time. I was a child, and it takes place in New Jersey, so it was everywhere around me.
Yeah.
And I kind of grew up with it in the background. And I know the iconic ending where it just cuts to black. If that is a spoiler, you really need to get on watching The Sopranos.
Yeah.
Actually aired on the news at the time after the finale. So people who hadn't watched it yet because they recorded it since the finale was like 6 years later.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's it's funny because I mean I was born in 2002. So I was born
Yes.
when the third season was coming out. Um and I had friends that had watched it. I'd heard my parents talk about it, family, but I never
Yeah.
like had any interest in it. I was like, oh, it's New Jersey. Like I live in New Jersey. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
Um,
it
but
aired until
realistically,
2007.
yeah, realistically, like I'm South Jersey, so North
Yes.
Jersey and South Jersey
Mhm.
are very different places.
Yes, I'm
Um,
in Central Jersey. So it's like a
doesn't
half hour
exist. No,
in
I'm just
yeah.
kidding.
It's a half hour in either direction and it's a
Yeah,
whole different culture. It's not culture shock because it's where I live,
yeah,
but it's still like, oh, when I went to Rowan, it was as an undergrad, it's like, oh, this is not this is
yeah,
more Philly than New York. And The Sopranos is a part of New Jersey that feels like an extension of New York at
yeah,
times.
for sure.
Sometimes
Especially
called
with
the
the
sixth borough.
accents. Yeah,
Yes.
the accents and everything. Just the way people interact, I
Yeah,
think is different. I mean, they're also like portraying mob characters, so that's a completely different aspect of
that is true.
culture. But um, still, you said to me in class one time, had you not heard about the ending? And I was like, no, I read it. I hadn't. I read it in Bianculli's book um, when he was asking um,
Yeah, that's the platinum
about
age
it.
of
Yeah,
television. Go
yeah,
out,
he was
get that.
asking. Yeah,
Everywhere
he was
books are
asking.
sold,
It's
probably.
great. He has
Amazon.
interviews with
We're trying to
people
get
you
an
wouldn't
A
even think
here.
so. Yeah, we are. Um, but he had an interview with David Chase and he said, "What was up with that cut to black?" And I was like, "Cut to
Hmm.
black? That's a little interesting. Never heard that before." And I was ready for this like crazy, like, oh my God, like somebody dies and then it cuts to black
Yeah,
or you don't know
no.
if they died or not.
They're at a
Like it was
diner.
just it's the way this ended. I mean, I think people felt unfulfilled by it, but
Yes.
I felt almost completely fulfilled by it. Um,
Really? Explain,
I did,
please.
yeah. So I think I wasn't watching this week to week. So when it was coming out week to
Hmm.
week, you almost just get a look into this family
Also, there were
for
two
an
years
hour.
between some seasons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you get an hour look into this family and then you got to wait another week or 2 years even.
Hmm.
And I was just watching it back to back to back to back. So a lot of these things started to like flow together. Um,
Yeah.
and I think The Sopranos is very a show about life and death.
Mhm.
So when we think about life and death, um, really life can end at any point, right?
Yes.
So I was thinking about it. Yeah, I watched One Piece, the anime, right? And
Mhm.
this show has been going on for 26 years. It came out the same year as The Sopranos, and it's still going on.
Yes.
Um, and the creator Oda, he just got sick, and they stopped releasing episodes. They're like, oh my goodness, what if this just ends? And I see a lot of like memes online. It's like, would you rather um stay alive and Oda pass away and the show doesn't finish, or would you rather take one for the team, die, and Oda lives? And everyone says, I want my friends to see the end, right? I'm in it for the team. Like I don't have to see the end. Let me take one for the team. But I think that The Sopranos ending was very similar in the same way, where you're just in the middle of a if I can divulge into the episode,
Yeah,
you
go
have
for it.
all this stuff going around. It feels like a regular episode, um, almost slower than a lot of the episodes, and you're kind of just like living with these people. And Tony's in a point where his enemies are just kind of like falling off. People, that they were coming after him. He
Yeah.
got the hit first, and now he's safer, and he feels safer. But there's still this like feeling in the back of your head, like something could happen right now, right? So
Yeah.
they're in the diner, and all that's in my head is it's gonna cut to black here. It's gonna cut to black. Like when does
Right.
this cut to black
Because you
happen?
knew.
Yeah, and they have intercut of Meadow Soprano's daughter,
Mhm.
parallel parking,
Yeah.
and she can't get it. She's parallel parking, and she just cannot figure it out, and she does it and pulls back out, and they start getting faster and faster with the cuts, and it's Tony and his son and his wife there sitting at the table, and he's like kind of eyeing these people walking by, and you see this guy walk by behind him and go into the bathroom,
Mhm.
and then finally Meadow gets the park job done, and then
Mm.
she goes through the door. You see this guy exit the bathroom. Tony Soprano looks up, and even before he's done looking up, it just cut to black. And I was like, I had to rewind
Yeah.
because I knew it was going to cut to black, but I thought there was something that was going to happen
No.
before it cut to black. And I see now
No.
why that was like, what the heck just happened? Um,
Right.
but realistically, life with the same thing as One Piece, it could end at any point, right? So I'm
Right.
thinking about this show, and you have all these characters throughout this show who feel like family members. They become family members, and then they do something. You're like, oh no, that's not good. And then they stay a little too long. You're like, oh, maybe nothing will happen to them. And then all of a sudden, they're just dead in the woods in South Jersey. Like, what just happened?
Right.
Um, and that would happen continually with different characters. And I saw this, like, yeah, Tony Soprano's our main character, but um his life can end at any point, just like any other characters and just like ours. So I thought of it like, what if my life ended right now? Somebody just came into my room, and I got murdered in my room or something. Horrible thing to think about.
Right.
But I think with David Chase is just kind of revolutionary in the sense where you can expect it, and then he takes you to a place where you're like, you kind of
Mhm.
get back on your heels, you feel comfortable again. He's like, no, never mind, this person does die, right? Every
Okay.
time, every single
Right.
time. So with Tony Soprano is the same way. I mean, he gets shot, he's safe, and then his uncle comes in and who has dementia and shoots him, thinking it's somebody else. It's like, oh my
Mhm.
God, his uncle just killed him. What the heck's happening? Um, but the cut to black is the same way. If Tony's life did end, that show would end.
Right.
But you have all these characters throughout the end, and the story continues. So whether his life ended or not, I don't think it mattered.
Because everything still goes on.
It still goes on, and that's how I looked at it. Just sitting in my bed, like, well, I guess, I mean, yeah, it ended, but my life has to go on, right?
Yes.
So it's the same for them. If it just ended, life still has to go on. All those people around him, it was a filled diner. all those people still go on. I just found that like eye-opening. It doesn't matter where a story ends. It you can always say the journey's better than the destination. Um,
That's
but
true.
uh, that show really is about the journey, and there really is never a true destination, right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
speaking of the journey, did you watch The Many Saints of Newark, the prequel movie to The Sopranos?
Um, I did not. I had
Okay.
friends in my sophomore year of college who went and saw it in theaters. Of yeah, Sopranos, blah. But they said it was like okay. I didn't end up watching it because I felt like I needed some space. I did the same
Okay.
thing with Breaking Bad because that ended, and then as I watched it, the El
Mhm.
Camino came out. I was
Yes.
like, I'm not watching it now. Let me finish this, wait a while, sit with this, and then watch it, just so like I have some time to process. I think
Right.
I have had enough time to process. I might go back now, but I actually went back and started listening to the Talking Sopranos podcast, Michael
Okay.
Imperioli and I forget the other guy's name, um,
That was
who
your
plays
prep for
Bobby.
this?
No, no, right after I finished,
I'm
I
joking.
listened to yeah, uh, no, the last right after I finished, it cut to black. I'm like, oh
Mhm.
gosh, I felt like I was unfulfilled, and then it took me a couple minutes. And I was like, okay, but I was like, let me just hear about this, what they thought, and they're
Yeah.
producing this 25 years after completing the series,
Right.
so they're also looking back in a sense where like we were on set, but we're just like reminiscing about this.
Yeah.
And they had David Chase on for the final episode, and I watched that, and it ended up being like a just kind of like a Q&A with David Chase about the whole series.
Yeah.
Um, but he still doesn't talk about the fade to black, and I think it's the same thing where it
No.
just, it could end at any time.
He does
Um,
not want to talk about it at
no,
all. We've
and I don't
been
think he has to. I honestly don't think he has to. I think if if we're still talking about it 25 years later,
he did his
uh, they
job.
did they did the right thing, right?
Yes.
If it ended any other way, you could easily say like, oh, that sucked, or
Right, like How I Met Your Mother. Where it's
yeah.
like, why am I going to start watching it when we know that it builds up to nothing?
Exactly. And Game of Thrones was the same way. I just watched Game of Thrones for the first time. People were like, oh, that last season is so bad. I got to it. I
Hmm.
was like, it can't be that bad. I get to last season. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
And then the
Like,
House of Dragon
yeah,
keeps
and
getting its
and I
budget
started
cut.
that. Yeah, I started that with my girlfriend, and she continued on. I was like, I can't do it. It just ruined it for me. But I think if you don't have a complete ending where you have to like tie all these things together, eh,
Yes.
it feels better because now we can like think about these things on our own.
Right.
Have you seen Inception?
No, I have not.
Christopher Nolan. It's the same thing. They ended on like a was this reality or was this a dream?
Right. There was a
And
while there people would say things like, it's like Inception. And it's like,
yeah,
okay.
and people still talk about that. And I think Christopher Nolan did the right thing. He left it up to the audience to decide.
Right.
Um, because yeah, we were talking about Star Trek last semester, and uh, we were talking about fan written stories,
I don't
right?
remember Star
You
Trek
don't remember
conversation.
this?
No, but I
Well,
have so
in
many
in class,
conversations about. I
in
figured
in class. Okay, yeah. So
who was the
so
professor.
Blaylock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Another
we were
shout
talking
out.
about yeah. Shout out Dr. Blaylock. He's awesome.
See you. Well, see you Wednesday. Or
Yeah, tomorrow. We'll see.
yeah. Well,
But
this isn't going up tonight, but
yeah,
yeah,
okay, okay.
we are
Um,
recording this on a Tuesday, even though it's
yeah,
usually released Monday mornings. But you
okay.
know,
Um, I didn't know that. That's cool.
yeah,
But
we
we
have a
were
regular
talking about
schedule.
yeah,
But
good.
Star
Uh,
Trek, yes.
yeah, Star Trek. We were talking about uh fan fiction.
Okay.
Yeah, and we were talking about how like people liked the first season of Star Trek
Yes.
and they hated the next season so much that they started making up their own stories, right?
Oh, yes, this
Do
was
you
the
remember this?
fanzine class.
Yes, yeah. So
For our
So
research methods.
yeah, I kind of think about this the same way where if you don't have like if you keep releasing stuff and then the fans feel like they're not getting what they want,
Right.
they can easily make their own mind up on how they wish it went.
Right. And I'm
And
sure
I think
it's out there, but I don't think there's that much Tony Soprano fan fiction. Like, we know that
no,
there's Star Trek fan
yeah,
fiction.
yeah, but I'm saying it's the same way. Like David Chase is like, think about this on your own.
Right.
Whereas like, and I don't think there was any point where Sopranos fans, and now I'm watching it 25 years later, but I don't
Yep.
think there was any point where Sopranos fans were like, yeah, this doesn't work anymore, you
We need
know?
more scenes of the therapist.
Yeah, no.
Dr. Melfi.
Dr. Melfi was awesome. I love
Yeah,
those
she
scenes,
is.
but do you need more? Um,
Right.
and I think that writing and making these shows does end up like a conversation between the viewer and the creators. But
Yeah.
um, I like that David Chase was almost like, you know what, it's your guys' time to shine. I'm done with this. The story ended. It's over.
Right. And I also think a lot of people, if The Sopranos didn't end, like if Tony didn't die after that diner, I think the character died when James Gandolfini passed away.
Yeah.
Because that was shocking to everyone. He wasn't that old.
Hmm.
That's also probably why his son played Tony Soprano in The Many Saints of Newark, just to
Yeah.
keep that connection going.
Yeah. And I saw that I think they're releasing a miniseries prequel,
Oh,
um,
okay.
with his son. Yeah. Keep it going. I don't know if it's David Chase or not anymore, but somebody's definitely making it. I think. But yeah. I don't know. The
Did you
ending
see
though, it
Wise
was cool.
Guy, the David Chase documentary that
I
came
did,
out?
yes.
What did you think of that? I
Um,
actually like that way more than I've liked any episode of The Sopranos I've seen, which this podcast is turning into things Allison dislikes.
yeah. Well, that's what the Idiot Box does. Um, no, I did like it. I think that there are a lot of like unanswered questions and stuff.
Right.
Um, and I think that was purposeful, but I also think that like some of the decisions, I mean, some of the stuff in that show just I don't think would be made now. Um,
No.
it's like there's some really disturbing images in that show
Yes.
that I think that HBO was in a place where they were like, okay, we're doing anything and
They could get
everything.
away with it because they
Yeah.
were an unknown quantity in
Hmm.
dramas. Yeah, they had a few like comedies, comedy dramas, and sitcoms, but they didn't do anything like The Sopranos before, though I don't think
Yeah.
anyone did anything like The Sopranos before. And now we're seeing, for the last 20 something years, all the prestige dramas that came in The Sopranos' wake that
Yeah.
owe a lot to The Sopranos. Like, we talk about Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, which
Hmm.
wouldn't have been on AMC's radar if it wasn't for The Sopranos and that
Yeah.
allure of a story every week, and you keep coming back for more that you don't have necessarily with a sitcom or a show like Law and Order, where each episode is self-contained.
Yeah. Um, I think it's funny too, the like The Sopranos or Breaking Bad, these are like on a pedestal of like some of the best shows ever
Yes.
made, right? And it's always
Yeah.
about somebody who's a horrible person.
The
So like
anti-hero. We
the
love an
the
anti-hero.
anti-hero is at the forefront of um television now
Now I'm
because of The
just
Sopranos.
picturing
Um
someone doing a video of Tony Soprano to Taylor Swift's anti-hero, and it's just like, it's me, I'm the problem, and he's just sitting down with Dr. Melfi.
yeah, no, I don't think he would ever I don't think he would ever admit to being the problem, honestly. I think that's what we learn in The Sopranos
That
is
is
that
true.
he's not the problem in
I'm
his
just saying a
eyes.
fan vid. I'm not saying.
Yeah, I know, I know. That's funny, yeah. Um, but yeah, I think yeah, I think we're just in a different time than when it was made.
Oh
So
yeah, much different.
it's interesting seeing it now. Because we see like throughout the show, you see the introduction of the internet, computers, how it's changing the
Yes.
kids, how they're interacting with people differently. Um,
Yes.
a lot of
That's what was going
AJ,
on when I was
Anthony.
growing up, middle school and high school.
Yeah,
So
I
again,
mean,
like the background, it was
you see
there. It
the
was that and
introduction of
Sex in the
cell phones and
City.
stuff. Yeah, they we became like a much more technologically based society with The Sopranos, and the way they melded that into that show, I thought was like
Yeah.
really well done. Because I mean, Anthony Jr. His downfall is similar to that of Tony Soprano's his father, but um,
Mhm.
I think that a lot of his like this the way they were kind of like pushing it was that like his online presence was kind of overtaking his life on top of like his actual social base.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so and I mean, I feel like we did see that with introduction of the internet and that's technological determinism, isn't it? Didn't I didn't I just make
McLuhan.
a
Oh
point?
yes,
Yeah.
so much
Didn't I just make
McLuhan
a point?
in a
No,
grad program.
it was not the technology's fault. Um, but it was just interesting to see that because you have a mob story, but you also have that family aspect of it too, where yeah, yeah,
And last semester, since we keep bringing up school, you wrote a paper on The Sopranos, and it talked about how. Why am I blanking on her name? Um, Tony Soprano's wife. Who,
Carmela, yeah.
yes, thank you. Carmela, played by Edie Falco,
Hmm.
who she becomes very religious, Catholic throughout the series, and you were comparing it to not James Gandolfini, his character Tony Soprano's Omerta, the mafia code. Do
Yeah.
you want to talk a little bit about what similarities you saw, or
Yeah, so
yeah,
the I'm no um uh
expert?
expert, no, but um looking into it, I did a paper on season one, episode five, um, which was college,
Yes.
where Tony takes his daughter Meadow to uh tour colleges in Maine.
Isn't that the
And
one where
this
he
episode,
literally strangles a guy bare hands?
yeah, and this is one of the first times we see him present like as a vicious, like violent person.
Yes.
So I thought this was interesting because this is also the first episode where we see Carmela's religiosity come through. And
Mm,
I'm not Catholic myself. Um,
right.
but I did grow up around friends that were Catholic who went to CCD and stuff. I did grow up in church, uh, like Baptist Christian and stuff. But
Okay.
the even the difference between like other types of Christianity and
Right.
Catholicism is interesting to me too, because Catholicism, as I see it, is very rule based, right? So
Mhm.
I was thinking about this like the parallel between Tony going and killing this guy
Yes.
and Carmela like completely upset that she hasn't uh made a confession in
Right.
forever. Or it's like she's upset about this. Tony's like, yeah, I gotta get this done myself. And these are just like two very different things that they cut back and forth between. It's like this is so like off. Like these
Yes.
two people are married to each other. Like they're so
Yes.
different. Um,
But
but
she does almost cheat on him with the priest.
yeah, there was definitely like a seductive and sexual nature within that. But yeah, which also completely it like kind of null and voids the whole like ceremony they were doing. But
Right. She didn't really have the high ground, even though she was trying to get that. And she knew what Tony was doing. So seeking out religion in that matter was her
yeah,
trying to atone for his sins.
yeah. And I had been in I think I had just finished the fifth season when I started writing this.
Mm-hmm.
So in the fifth season, I'm pretty sure it was in the fifth season. Uh, Throughout the whole series, you're like, why is Carmela not leaving this guy? Right?
Right.
Like what he's narcissistic. He
Mm-hmm.
can play into people's feelings and get them to stay, but it's
Yes.
just like there's a lot of times where you're like, okay, now it's time to leave, girlfriend. Like, come on, like what are we doing here?
But they're
Um,
also in the mob, so it's harder to leave because they can just
yeah,
whack her.
yeah. But there was also always this thing where Carmela knew what he did,
Yeah.
but it was like she would ask him a question. He's like, "Do you really want to know the answer to that?"
And it's
She's
no.
like, "No,
No.
no," because if she knew the answer, then she could be used in a court case against him or something like that. But
Technically,
um,
spousal privilege, she couldn't.
yeah, yeah. And we saw that later with um Christopher and I'm blanking on her name too. Um, his
Oh,
girlfriend.
is that played by let me look that up.
Yeah, but there was a moment there where his girlfriend gets contacted by the FBI, and she's like, so like she goes to a lawyer and she's like, so if I marry him, like does the spousal, you know,
Right.
will I be like protected there? Or like, yeah, but like no, like you're still like you could be like a commodity to murder or all these other crimes. Um, so like they did bring that up in there, but like it really does not protect that much, right?
No, it
So,
doesn't. So
but
I looked this up, and Christopher Moltisanti, he had multiple spouses. There was Kelly Lombardo Moltisanti. Is that the one you were talking about?
no, that was in the last season.
And then there was Adriana Las
It's Adriana. Yep. I
Adriana.
forgot. I knew it started with an A.
I was thinking that too. I knew it was the character played by Drea Di Matteo.
Yeah, and she was awesome in this
Yes.
show. But yeah, there was a point where she was like, should I just get married to him? Like, will I be protected? Will I be able to protect him if I'm married to him?
Right.
Because he was very kind of loudmouth in the show. He would come home and say like, guess what I just did?
Mhm.
Um, but in this paper, I started looking at like morality, right? So
Yes.
we think a lot about morality, and we can think about morality coming from like a religious standpoint,
Yeah.
but I'm always curious as to how like one's own morality is affected by not having like a religious background to it, right? Um,
Right. And just because
and
you're
I
religious
don't
doesn't
really
make you a moral person.
know exactly, exactly. So
Mhm.
my question was, Carmela obviously has this moral center to her,
Yes.
based in Catholicism. Where
Yeah.
does Tony's come from, right? So in this episode, he has a conversation with
Yeah.
Christopher on the phone, and um, he they kind of talk about their code, their mafia code, without saying
Yeah.
mafia code, but it's there.
Yeah.
Um, and one of the lines, I'm just looking at the paper now. Tony tells Christopher like, the way this went down, this is my call. I got to vouch for this myself.
Yes.
And then Christopher comes back and he's like, but if I clip him, like I'm like so close to being made, being a made guy, like a captain in the mafia.
Yes.
Um, and then Tony kind of comes back and he's like, no, there's like a time sensitivity to this. I think he saw me. I think he recognized
Mm.
me. And then he's like, this is final. Like, this is my call because like this is a me thing. You didn't know the guys that he ratted on. Like, the
Yes.
code is that I'm the one that should do this, right?
Yeah.
So there's like there is like he has this morality, and even if his morality tells him that he's allowed to murder this guy
Right.
within his own moral code. And
Yes.
on the other hand, Carmela's talking to the priest, and she's like, he's never told me. I don't know for sure, but I think he does. He's doing these things, and I just feel like I've been morally, um, you know, messed up by this.
She thinks he's doing it. He's in the mob.
Yeah, yeah, but that's never explicitly told to her.
I think
Um,
she knows, though.
she knows, yes, but like still, it's that thing where it's like, do you want to
Meadow
know? And
knows.
she's like, no. Meadow does. The kids do find out. And in this episode, Meadow actually asks him, "Are you in the mob?" He's like, "What are you talking about?" No, after he just
It's
killed a
waste
guy with the
management.
wire. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's waste management. Um,
Apparently,
um,
that's a real thing.
what's that?
Using waste management to cover up mafia activities.
Yes, I have heard that, and that is why I'm saving up money to buy a waste management facility. No, just
This will be
kidding.
used as evidence against you in your court trial.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okie dokie. But I was
Your
just trying to
lawyer is
find this
going to
part.
hate this.
Yeah, actually. Um, so she's going to give confession to the priest, right? And
Hmm.
she says to the priest, she says, I'm just gonna read it off. Uh, quote, she says, I've forsaken what is right for what is easy, allowing what I know is evil in my house,
Yes.
right? So she's just allowing it there, even though she doesn't know complete specifics. And then she says, I'm so ashamed. My husband, I think he has committed horrible acts. So she thinks.
Yeah.
She goes on, she says, I think he has. Well, you know all about him, Father Phil. I'm the same. I've said nothing. I've done nothing about it. I got a bad
Yeah.
feeling. It's just a matter of time before God compensates me with outrage for my sins. So just her knowing about it is just as bad as doing the thing. Whereas
Right.
Tony's off in Maine strangling a man with his bare hands.
It's also, and I don't think it's ever raised how much she knew before she married him. So it's not even like she's allowing it. She may be trapped in the marriage now that she's figured it out.
So it does come up a little. She knows
Okay.
because like his dad was like a big name in the town and stuff. And they went to they were like high
Okay.
school sweethearts, and um she there when they have problems, she's like, I should have never married him. I knew where this was going. Like, I knew what I was getting myself
Oh,
into.
so then there is
Yeah,
an element of what were you expecting?
yeah, yeah. And there's always this conversation of do you like that coat you have on? Do you like that watch you have on? Like, what do you want me
Yeah.
to do? Like, stop doing this? Like, you say you don't like this stuff, but every time I do it, you clearly forgive me for everything I've done
Yeah.
because of this materialistic nature. Um, I think that's also a very a big parallel in religiosity and Catholicism, and materialistic behavior is like so opposite. So she says all these
Right.
things and tries to be this moral figure when she really is not. Even if it is, and
Yeah.
writing this paper, it's hard to like say like what's right and what's wrong, because at a certain point I'm bringing my own morality into it.
Right, which is not what these type of papers are about.
No, and you can't do that, but it's tough when there is this, and I feel like we can all say like murder is bad,
Right.
but how do we know that? So it's like,
Right.
how do you write this paper and juxtapose these two moralities, these moral systems?
Mhm.
um because like at a certain point we're judging it from our own set of
Yes.
morals. So I don't even know if the paper is that great, but I did find it very interesting, especially in this episode, to see this very opposite, these two opposite things happening.
Yeah.
And this is how every episode is set up. There's this level of like, I feel like a horrible person. I
Mhm.
really haven't done anything too bad. And then you have the other side, like, I'm a great person and watch me kill this man. It's like,
Right.
what? What is going on? So we're supposed to hate him, but he's such a charming figure. It's like it's so
Yes.
weird. It's weird, and having this be one of those first shows that like you see this anti-hero like at the forefront, it's like
Yes.
how did they get it so right? You know? How how were they able to get it so right? I don't know. Um
Yeah.
I I could have added in
But wasn't
conversations with
David Chase shopping this around for years? And it could have
yeah,
ended up on a network, which would have been a very different show and probably a mistake.
absolutely. I don't think it would be the show it is.
No.
Because we had conversations about this particular episode, college, um,
Yes.
how like the people behind the scenes were like, you cannot show him killing someone.
Yeah, HBO
You're
was
gonna
not happy with
lose
that decision.
you're gonna lose 90% of your viewers. And people just stayed.
Yeah.
Why?
But I also
It's
think he's a mobster if he doesn't do mob stuff.
exactly.
Like money laundering, that's not why people watch Goodfellas
No,
or
not
The
at all.
Godfather.
Not at all. There could be like I think later you get like drug aspects to it and stuff. Like
Yeah.
that could have been a thing, but then the whole show becomes a show about these people peddling drugs. Where
Then you have Breaking Bad.
yeah, exactly. But what's interesting about the drug thing is like you think like mafia, like probably like money laundering, drugs, whatever it is.
Mhm.
All they they make it very clear in the show like we don't do that anymore. Like we are not drug peddlers, like you don't
Yeah.
use my waste management routes to sell drugs. And
Right.
a lot of the time the people who were selling the drugs end up being the ones that the FBI catches. And they're like,
Mhm.
okay, if you rat on these people, we get you off of the 30-year drug charges, you know? So
Yeah.
you have this aspect of like what's good and what's bad.
Yeah.
And then you have the morality of the FBI coming in too. It's
Yeah.
a show about life, death, and morality. And
Yes.
that's all it is. Yeah.
Are there any other episodes or how do you think you would feel about the show had you watched it, been able to watch it at the time, especially with those giant gaps? It feels like a
Yeah.
show that's meant to be binge watched if you're very into it. I don't know how
Yeah.
people waited so long and then the final season's like half at one time, then you have to wait 6 months for the other half.
It was still twice as long that sixth season, right? But still like they say, okay, first half, second half.
Yeah.
I think that if I was watching it then, um, I think first of all I'd be a very different person. I think that um the way I grew up was very, you know, internet based and stuff. Uh I think that if I think it'd be the same thing, um, because um I would have been growing with
Mhm.
AJ and Meadow, and I would have seen myself in them more. Whereas I saw myself in this show now that I'm watching it, more in like Christopher and the guys around him.
Got
Um,
it.
but I think having like AJ and them combined, um, but I also saw these kids grow up 7 years in a matter of 5 months,
Right, that is
So
true.
yeah, so I
So
I think it I think it I think I would have been just as locked in. Yeah.
true. And just for the season breakdown, the first through the fifth season were all 13 episodes.
Mhm.
However, there was 1 year between the first, second, third, and fourth season. Then there was 2 years between the fourth and the fifth season, 2 years between the first half of the sixth season and the fifth season. There were 12 episodes on the in the first half of the sixth season, 9 episodes on the second half, which was about a year later.
Yeah.
So that's 21 episodes in total over the course of 2 years. And this was a time when we were still getting 21, 22 episode seasons
Yeah.
on broadcast and
Yeah,
not waiting 2 years.
it's funny that you say that because like same with Breaking Bad,
Yeah.
also 12 episodes. I think of like The Walking Dead was 16 episodes, 12 episodes in the first season,
Yeah.
16 every following season. There's definitely a difference between cable television and or uh like HBO and just other
Yeah.
like networks. Um, and I think it's hard to uh also half-hour episodes versus hour episodes. I think there's a big difference. I think
There
you
it
can
is.
argue that a half-hour show
Mm-hmm.
that has 22 episodes is very similar to a 13 episode season with hour-long episodes. Um,
In
but
terms of time, is that what you're
in
talking
yeah yeah
about?
yeah yeah in
Okay.
terms of
Because the
time, but you
structure is
have like a
different.
continue. It's very different, but I'm saying like yeah, you have the same amount of content, but the
Got
structure
it.
is very different. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Uh, but I think that's a I don't even know what it is. It's just the way it's like a different structure, and I don't know
Right.
why they
It's
chose that. Like, why didn't they go with 30-minute, 22 episode seasons?
Well,
It,
dramas tend to be an hour, not a half
yeah,
hour. That's just historically what it has been on US television. To the
yeah,
point where
yeah.
if you have an hour long comedy, it better be a dramedy, otherwise it's hard to sell to an audience.
It doesn't work as well. Okay, I understand. That makes sense.
It's all marketing and what people are used to.
Yeah,
You know, if
yeah,
there were hour long sitcoms from the beginning of television, we'd all be like, sitcoms have to be an hour.
yeah, exactly. It's definitely like um, there's definitely like a structure to like different genres too. Yeah,
It's also the familiarity, which there's got to be something there that you've either not seen before or you relate to in order
yeah,
for you to be drawn to the show. And like I think The Sopranos may be one of the first shows where we moved more towards the British structure of television, where they have very short seasons. It's very rare where you see a season more than 5, 6 episodes.
yeah.
Occasionally, you'll get a
I didn't understand that when I started watching British TV. I was like, what the heck is going on?
right. And occasionally, you'll get a 13 episode season, and then you're like, "Why so long? Like,
Yeah,
what was
yeah.
going on here?"
What happened? But very quick and concise, and there's still a lot there. I'm thinking about like
Yeah.
Peaky Blinders and
Okay.
Sherlock. Like those are Sherlock
Yes.
is three episode seasons. I'm like
Yes.
what? uh, uh, Peaky Blinders is
But they're
six
also
six
all
episodes. Yeah,
each with Sherlock. They're all the length of a movie.
they are. Yeah, yeah. But it is very different. I feel like in America we almost
Mm-hmm.
just try to like fill it up. Um,
Yeah.
it's like there's so much. We have so much variety. But like
Yes.
there's only a few good things.
Well, it's the
Well,
same with British
subjective, but
TV too. They just don't import that stuff. I always
yeah,
use
okay.
Noel's House Party as an example. If you
Uh-huh.
don't know what that is, go Google it. You will be shocked. I don't know how you would feel about this. It's kind of
What
like a
is it? Noel's house party?
Noel's House Party. That is, yeah, the guy's name is Noel Edmonds. It's like a 90s Nickelodeon show, only it aired at 8 o'clock on the BBC in the 90s.
Okay.
It's very weird. The
Interesting.
most iconic character from it is Mr. Blobby, who was supposed to be a parody of a children's show character, but became one. So he became what he was parodying, and
Nice.
also had the like number one Christmas single, which is a huge deal in the UK. And it's just a song where he's like
Really?
blobby 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 blobby, and then um
That's funny.
not Jeremy Clarkson is in the video.
It
It's
makes no sense.
wild.
I'll check it out. I'll get back to you on it. I don't know if I'll actually check it out. We'll see. I don't, you're kind of scaring me with it. um,
I mean, you don't have to
yeah,
watch a full episode. Watch a few clips and you're good.
yeah. Okay,
A future
okay.
episode is going to be on it. And watched the 100th episode and I'm like, there is no reason to watch this whole thing.
100
Like,
episodes of it. Yeah, that's crazy.
oh, there's more than 100 episodes of it.
Great,
Oh, yeah.
great. I was just thinking about you saying like how much time was in between the seasons, and
Hmm.
I'm thinking about what shows I'm watching now that are like, you know, um,
Yeah.
like streaming shows that are having these super long breaks in between seasons.
Yeah.
So I think that yeah, I don't think it matters that much if a show is that good because I'm thinking like I'm watching Severance right now. I just watched Silo. Silo had a year and a half between the first two seasons.
Wasn't
Severance
Severance
had
is
3 years.
right? Wasn't that partially because of COVID?
It was they shot during COVID uh
Okay.
for the first season. The second season had some writer strike and just some people were at odds in the production team. So
Okay.
there was a time when it was like we don't even know if it's happening. Um,
Mhm.
but what's coming out now? They filmed 2 years ago. So it was ready to come out,
Yeah.
a year or two after the first season, but now it's been three, and it actually has gained like probably 10 times to 50 times the viewers it had in the first season.
With
Um,
Severance, Roku, not Roku, Apple had an interesting marketing strategy with that.
they did.
They released the first 10 episodes, the full first season, on the Roku channel, so you could
Yeah,
watch them for free, which was how they got people to subscribe to Apple TV and watch Severance. And
very
that's,
smart.
yes, it's very
If you want
smart.
to talk about streaming,
It's how a lot of shows have picked up viewers as they've gone on. It's not usually an intentional marketing strategy. We always go back to Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad kept gaining steam and more viewers throughout its run because Netflix had the first few seasons. So you
yeah,
could binge watch to catch up, and then just in time for the fourth or the fifth season, you're where everyone else who's been following it from the beginning is. You
yeah.
didn't miss anything
This is
because,
actually this is happening a lot actually.
yeah,
It's but usually on Netflix or Peacock or something. Um,
yes.
but Apple TV hasn't done it, and I think they were very smart to do this because I mean they're probably killing it now, even though they already have trillions of dollars. But
Well, with Apple TV, it's one of those things where they don't have a ton of content because most, if not all of it, is made by Apple.
yeah, yeah,
And Apple TV was originally created to sell Apple devices.
hmm,
And with the consolidation in the industry, we are seeing, in the media industry, we are seeing giant tech companies buy up studios because they want access to that kind of production
yeah.
setup and apparatus. That's
Hmm.
also why Amazon acquired MGM
Yeah,
Studios.
it's smart.
It's smart, but it also goes back to, do we really want these giant tech companies that have tons of our information to create shows for us?
Yeah, I don't know. It's
Because,
like a Black Mirror episode.
yes, because they're more concerned about getting eyeballs than taking a chance on a creator. And a lot of the people who get shows now have massive social media followings.
Hmm.
They're not some person with a great idea who kept chugging away and worked their way
Yeah,
up from an intern. They're people who make TikTok videos that are funny, or have had a YouTube channel for 10 years and people really like their stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different television age for sure. I got us off track from The Sopranos, but that's
It,
it's really interesting stuff.
I don't think you've listened to any of the other episodes, so thanks, Garrett. But we
Well,
usually have a
no,
conversation.
it's a podcast. It's a podcast structure for sure. It's just
Yes.
we're having a conversation, you almost forget you're being recorded, you know?
Right, which is kind of the point
Yeah,
of a podcast. It's going back
exactly.
to, as my
But
friend
no,
Mike says, the art of conversation,
yeah,
which we don't have anymore because we're always glued to our phones. The talk shows on TV nowadays aren't things like Dick Cavett or Tom Schneider, where you can have a full hour with one guest, or you can have
yeah,
three guests and they each talk for 15 minutes. It's now like The Tonight Show and they talk for 6 minutes and then go play a game because Jimmy Fallon is not a great interviewer.
yeah. They get their TikTok clips though, so it's good.
Right. It's all about
I'll watch it on TikTok.
getting those social media views.
Yeah,
Um, I believe Stephen Colbert has been winning the late night ratings because his show is less like, oh, let's just take the good parts and send those to our friends. It's more,
yeah,
if you're a Stephen Colbert fan, you're watching his show.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He kind of lost me after the Colbert Report, but I don't know if he really had me to begin with.
Okay. I don't watch much late night television. I know you you have some you know what?
Yes.
Thinking about late night and
But again, it
Conan, I
yes.
I thought Conan did great at the Oscars. I thought
Yes.
he was very entertaining. I think he has a very like self-deprecating like way about him that makes you go, "Oh, why did he say that? Oh, he's talking about himself." You know.
Right. I'm it
I think
that
he's
the
great at that.
Oscars, first of all, I fast forward through all the non-Conan-y parts. And
Really.
yeah, I don't care who wins an
I watched
Oscar.
the
I'm a TV
whole thing.
person.
Yeah, yeah.
And it made me miss late night,
Yeah,
specifically late night with Conan O'Brien. Like the Tonight Show was its own weird thing where 6 months no one knew what was going on.
yeah,
And then Conan on TBS, it just became different because he was no longer the underdog. He was now this guy who was angry at NBC and
yeah.
did the legally prohibited from television tour, got a Twitter account, and people rallied behind him.
And
Like,
I see why you like Letterman and Conan. They both have that, screw the system
yeah.
mentality, you know?
Yeah. Where it's like, I don't know how you had a career on a major network for so long, but okay. We're just going
Yeah.
to waste time. I was surprised that what was it that kept playing a new instrument every time he cut to it? It wasn't like a tapeworm. It was some sort of weird.
Oh, the sandworm?
Thank you.
Yeah, it was from Dune too.
Yes, the
Yeah,
sandworm. Like he would
yeah.
do things like that all the time on late night. I still remember like the FedEx Pope or a cactus playing We Didn't Start the Fire on a flute.
Nice. The whole song, that's a pretty long song.
Well, no, not the whole song. I mean, it was a
That'd be
cutaway
crazy.
gag,
Yeah, I know, I know. That's
but
funny.
it was still, that kind of weirdness, which I didn't find that Conan on TBS, the show, had.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like Conan with Outboarders more than the talk show. Now he has Conan O'Brien Must Go, which is tied into his podcast.
Mhm.
So he'll have people on his podcast and then go visit them randomly. So it's just like people in Thailand where it's like, why is Conan O'Brien on my doorstep? How
Yeah.
did he find me?
How did
What?
you get my address?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Conan.
It's
I think he should do it every year.
yeah, that would be great if he took over for Jimmy Kimmel. I don't know if that's something he would want, but I know the Academy came out and said he was great. We want him back.
Well, that's good. That's
Yes.
good. It must be nice to get that, you know, the appreciation back when so much of today's like media spaces hate,
Yeah.
hate, hate, It's like that thing was wrong. We're never having him back, you know?
Yeah, I don't think I've seen one person who's like, this sucked. I
Yeah, no,
hate him.
no.
If anything, I was reading reviews, and some people were disappointed where towards the end we saw less and less of Conan,
Yeah.
which leads people to believe that some bits were cut. Doesn't help that Adrian Brody was like, I've been here before, and gave like a 6 minute speech.
Yeah. I would say that um if we had Timothy Chalamet up there, it would have been much shorter. I did love Adrian Brody in The Brutalist though. It was a long movie,
Hmm.
a very at times very tough to sit through,
Well,
but
now
I
the
thought
theory is
I thought it
if
was
Adrian
beautiful.
Brody plays a Holocaust survivor, he's going to win a Oscar. Because the pianist
I
also,
mean,
yeah.
he's two for two, so I don't know. I don't know. Well,
Yeah, it's kind of a
well
weird
there
thing.
there's that whole conversation about the AI too, but
Yeah, that whole
I
thing. And then
think
there was
I
Amelia, what was it, Amelia Perez,
mhm,
that also had issues
yeah,
because people wouldn't shut up about things that they should not have been talking about if you want to win an Oscar.
I didn't see any of that. Um I heard about it, but I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I'm just gonna get mad. You
Right. I
know?
don't remember the details. I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
whatever. She's
exactly.
doing what she wants to do. If she wants to torpedo her chances.
Yeah, exactly. Come on now. Just
Yeah.
just
So,
just accept the award. I don't know.
yeah. So I think we'll see Conan back unless he doesn't want to. Like Jimmy Kimmel's like, I'm done. Billy Crystal also, I'm done. But it's nice to have a host after those weird years where they're like, we don't need a host, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah, a little strange. It I think I watched I don't know, did they not have one like 2 or 3 years ago? Um
I think they did 3 years ago. It might have been Jimmy Kimmel.
no, that was totally Jimmy Kimmel because I was thinking of it was Banshees of Inisherin. That was the last Oscars I watched before this one. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Right? Have you? I mean, I remember watching Conan's second Emmy. Have you hosting gig? Did you watch any of that before?
No.
I think the beginning of that, which if you want to go back and watch it, is on YouTube,
Okay.
and it's just him singing "Trouble," kind of like the musical number in the Oscars, where it was kind of foreshadowing the type of performance he would give.
Yeah. I I,
I mean,
I
I
think
didn't
it's
see the
funny though.
blue tux coming, but you know.
Yeah. The it's interesting if you don't watch movies, the Oscars, I mean, how are you gonna host the Oscars and not make jokes about movies,
Right.
and the movies from that year?
Well,
So
I'm not
like,
hosting the Oscars. It was
yeah, I
Conan.
know. But I'm saying like these jokes are there and you go, what the hell's that worm doing there?
Yeah.
Like what is that worm thing?
Well, he did
They also
introduce it
had
as
like
the worm from Dune.
yeah, I
So
know,
that
but then
was perfectly clear
I
at the
know, I know.
time. I
They
just,
had they had Deadpool and stuff come out and
yeah.
my girlfriend was watching like what is like what is that? Like there was
Yeah.
like all these different things. It's like what are these things? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I kind of have to explain the whole movie. I feel like or we could
Yeah.
just go watch it after. And then we watched a couple after. Yeah.
And since
And
we're
it's
on,
same with Emmys. Yeah. Emmys, like there's so much TV
right.
like that is, yeah, it's tough to like get the full grasp of like everything and to like appease to everyone is tough because like even when you're watching the Oscars, people watch one movie and go, that's the one that needs to win without watching the other ones, like getting the context of it all. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's fine. I'm trying to get us back to The Sopranos, and since we
Okay.
are talking about award shows, The Sopranos won 21 Primetime Emmy Awards and had 111 nominations. I think the only show that comes close to that is Saturday Night Live, which
Which has been on, it
50
has
years.
10 times as many seasons.
Yeah.
Testament to the show, I guess. It's
Yeah.
yeah, I actually didn't know that.
It was also
But
nominated for a GLAAD Media Award, which I don't understand that one, but okay.
um it was probably the Cut to Black.
For the GLAAD Media Awards.
I don't even know what the Glad Media Awards are.
Oh, that's given by the gay lesbian I forget what it stands. Gay Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation.
Oh, you know what? You said Glad and I thought like
Saran
like
wrap? No, it's
no,
bags.
the cleaning supplies. I was like, what? Why are they giving out awards? That makes sense. No, there is actually I think there's a lot. They there were a couple points where they were like ahead of their time. I think having
Okay.
Tony in that forefront when he's like a racist, misogynistic,
Yeah.
um, homophobic person. Um,
That's what the
but
GLAAD
there
Awards
was,
look for.
yeah, like what? No, there was in the there was one of the guys,
Mhm.
um, one of the mob members, one of the captains, um, ends up getting caught giving a
Okay.
blowjob in a truck, right? And
Got it.
Meadows' fiance sees him. And now Meadows' fiance is like, these guys are mob, like this guy's gonna kill me. So then it like goes on,
Mhm.
and then it ends up coming out, and they kind of out him
Yeah.
without his like knowledge, and now everyone starts to look at him differently. And Tony actually goes, hold up, like this is he's still like our guy, you know, like he's still
Yeah.
and then you go back to like I don't really like what he does, but this is also 2007, and I think
Right.
that having Tony say like, well, you guys want to kill him for being gay,
That.
like what he can't change that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
think that
Now
was
that
just
makes
so, and
sense.
I was watching, I was like, "Ah, that doesn't sound like Tony Soprano. That's so interesting, you know?
Yeah.
Like and
He was a complicated guy.
yeah, but for that to be 2006 2007, I think that
Mhm.
was very ahead of its time in that sense.
Definitely.
um yeah. um and that storyline uh ends up, I don't know, I didn't like the end of it,
It was
that
also
storyline. It
nominated for an NAACP Image Award.
really,
Yeah. And it was
I
nominated for
I don't think I could pinpoint that moment. I don't know if I can.
and it was nominated for 23 Golden Globe Awards, but and won 5. So let's see if we can
Wow.
figure out why it was nominated for an NAACP award. Okay, outstanding supporting actor in a drama series 2002. Charles Dutton was in it.
Charles.
Dutton, Dutton. Um, I think we all have a pretty good idea of why he would be nominated for an NAACP award.
Well, I'm trying to remember. um he's also director and producer. I was wondering if he directed one of the episodes.
It's It looks like he was in season 3, episode 5. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
officer,
okay, yeah. I remember this. Yeah,
the one
uh
person of color in this Sopranos.
Tony uh gets pulled over and then
Mhm.
ends up um talking to his friend in the government. He's like,
Mhm.
"Listen, can you just get this like off the radar?" Because
Yeah.
he was getting looked at by the FBI.
Okay.
And they end up firing the cop that pulled him over, who was just like, you know what, you were going 90 miles per hour in a 45, like you're not
Right.
getting out of this.
Yeah.
He ends up firing him, and then Tony like goes and finds him and like tries to give him money. He's like, I'm not taking your money. Like,
Got it.
you know what? Don't even help me get my job back. It's like you already did it. Like you messed up,
Yeah.
and I hope you realize you did. You know.
Got
Um,
it.
but yeah, I was trying to remember that was a good episode. Um, because you kind of just see like the whole like inside and out of
Yeah.
his kind of
Bribing.
ties with the bribing and stuff and
Yeah.
um, messed up stuff.
And before we wrap up, is there anything you want to add about The Sopranos?
Um, I would say that even though we were 25 years removed, there was no bad time to start The Sopranos. First of all, and I think that
Right.
goes for any show that we may be years removed from. There's never a show that's sorry. There's never a show that well, there probably are some, but
I
you
mean,
should
you can get something
always
out of
if
almost any show.
you can get something out of almost every show. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. And I think that if you heard one little bad thing about something, it that TV is completely subjective, and I think we should
Yes.
all be able to make our own um, you know, decisions on what we like and what we don't like.
Right. And
And
I also think the ending of The Sopranos is better received now than it was at the time.
yeah. Um I haven't talked to anyone who has watched it in the same time frame I have.
Okay.
Um, but the way I view it is definitely um, it's good. I like it. That's
And
we're not allowed to say that, but it's good. I like it.
no, you're
Um,
allowed to say it. This isn't a scholarly article.
I know, but
And
I should have a reason, but I think that it's just.
you don't need a
I mean,
reason.
I would walk away for a week from the show and feel like I was missing my family. It had a similar feeling to
That might be
missing
a
my
little
family when
disturbing considering.
exactly, but I'm saying like the way they put you into these people's lives and
Yeah.
he's the worst to the worst person, but
Mhm.
I think everyone has their problems and
Right.
um the ability to just like ground these characters was
Yeah.
incredible, and I don't know if it'll ever be matched. Honestly, it's good.
Okay.
It's good. Very good, and I like it. That's
Is
all I
there
have to say.
is there anything you want to say about yourself before we go? Where we can
um,
find you online
yeah.
or what you are doing or yeah, anything.
I'm trying to finish up school right now. See what happens. I'm really looking to uh get into the industry and start working. Um,
You know about
before
the
I
layoffs,
transition.
right?
I do, yes,
It's not
yes,
the
I do.
time.
But I mean, anyway, I can get a job. I'm gonna try to. And
Yeah.
Instagram G_note NOTE_S. And yeah, that's me. Um,
Okay.
thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for coming on. Hopefully you'll come back. We'll find something else
I
to talk about.
um I would love to talk about something else. We gotta think of something to
Yeah.
to
I
talk
mean, we
about.
see each other twice a week. We can figure something out.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you so much. It was a lot of fun.
And thank you, Garrett. This is Allison Lips for Greetings from the Idiot Box. Remember, until next time, television is a medium. Okay, let's try that again. This is Allison Lips for Greetings from the Idiot Box. Remember, until next time, television is a medium, neither rare nor well done. So we'll
I
see
like
you
that a
next
lot.
time. Bye.
Bye.